My world shattered in an instant, revealing a deception I never saw coming. I never envisioned my existence would pivot so dramatically. Growing up, I held the conviction that family bonds were unbreakable, a steady presence in an unpredictable universe. I pictured a straightforward existence, dedicated work, raising children who looked up to me. Yet, life seldom unfolds as we expect. My marriage began to unravel, and I missed the early warnings. By the time I grasped the betrayal from the person I trusted most, it was beyond repair. Reflecting now, the swiftness of our collapse feels unreal. Carrie and I once appeared content, building a shared future, dreaming of a larger home after Jimmy's arrival, but I was too absorbed in my job to notice the widening fissures. When I finally did, Carrie had already decided to leave, leaving me to gather the fragments. Seated by the window overlooking the bay, I watched local children at play. I spotted Jimmy, my son, joining their activities, flashing a quick smile. That brief exchange was all that remained of my involvement in his daily life. If Carrie knew he was nearby, she would rush him home, but Jimmy always managed to wave. It struck me deeply. My son, just 10, was old enough to comprehend the events between his mother, myself, and Greg. The most difficult part was how Carrie announced her departure. It was a typical Tuesday. "Jim, I'm pregnant," she stated. I embraced her, overjoyed, until I noticed her tears. She didn't return my hug. Then she declared, "It's not yours. I'm moving in with Greg Allen." Stunned, I left the house, went to Greg's, and confronted him. He contacted the authorities, and I spent the night in custody. Carrie obtained a protective order, and a week later, I received divorce documents. I never even got to ask her why she had an affair. The game outside ended, and Jimmy blew me a kiss. I pointed to the mailbox, where I'd left a mobile phone for him. He wasn't supposed to have one until he was 12, but I wanted to disrupt Carrie's plans. My sister agreed to take the blame. Inside, a note read, "Jimmy, I love you more than anything. You have unlimited data, so no Wi-Fi needed. I've included a gift card for games. All of Billy Joel's music is downloaded. Enjoy. I'm sorry I messed things up, but I miss you every single day. My number is saved as Mike. You can text me, but don't call, buddy. This is how it must be for now. I love you." Jimmy smiled, crumpled the note, and grasped the device. "I love you," he shouted, running off. Billy Joel was our special bond. Jimmy pretended to dislike his songs, but I knew he secretly enjoyed them. He'd subtly drop song lyrics to see if I'd notice. Once, after getting a D on a test, Carrie remarked, "You're usually an A student." Without missing a beat, Jimmy responded, "I guess I think too much," quoting Billy Joel. I chuckled, but Carrie didn't understand the inside joke. It was our thing. My profession involved working as a mechanic for a construction firm, repairing everything from cars to large machinery since my high school days. The pay was good, and I had a winter break annually. Carrie, a teacher, and I met at a country bar. We connected instantly, and 3 years later, we married. We purchased a small residence, intending to upgrade eventually, but in Carrie's vision of advancement, I no longer fit. I was unaware of her infidelity until she informed me she was expecting Greg's child. Greg was generally disliked, tolerated only because he provided expensive liquor at gatherings. Somehow, Carrie was an exception, desiring more than I could offer. Despite my stable union job with benefits, Carrie never complained about money. We traveled, and she bought whatever she wished. So I was shocked when she began to disparage my profession, calling me a grease monkey. The first instance was after I got dirt on her top, and from then on, it became her preferred insult. After Carrie relocated with Greg, our divorce was finalized. I gave Jimmy a clandestine phone to maintain contact, even with the protective order in place. I violated it once at a barbecue when Greg made an offensive comment about Carrie's pregnancy, and I struck him. Fortunately, neighbors supported me, and I avoided arrest, though the incident kept the restraining order active. A month after providing Jimmy the phone, we exchanged texts daily, keeping conversations light, never mentioning my role as his father. One evening, Jimmy called in distress. Greg had physically assaulted Carrie and pushed him. Without hesitation, I rushed to their house, disregarding the protective order. I forced the door open and witnessed Greg assaulting Jimmy while Carrie struggled on the ground. I pushed Greg outside, sending him tumbling down the steps. "Jimmy, call emergency services," I yelled. Carrie attempted to speak with me, but I interrupted her, telling her to focus on Jimmy. As I walked away, I recalled I shouldn't have been there, but before departing, I kicked Greg again, something I was beginning to find satisfaction in. Trey Jackson, Greg's neighbor, laughed as he watched me, while his wife Ziona went inside to assist Carrie and Jimmy. Another neighbor monitored Greg. "What transpired, Jim?" Trey inquired as I sat on the grass a short distance from the house. "Jimmy called for assistance," I explained. "Greg assaulted Carrie and pushed him, so I rushed over." "Damn." We heard the commotion but didn't realize it was so severe. "It's fine," I chuckled. "Didn't even get a chance to hit him, just shoved him out the door." We shared a laugh until the police and ambulance arrived. Trey volunteered to clarify everything to the officers, reminding them I was keeping my distance due to the court directive. "We all know you didn't deserve this," Trey added. "Thanks, man," I replied as the police questioned Trey, the neighbors, and a now conscious Greg. One officer handcuffed Greg, while another signaled me to speak. "Are you Jim Spellman?" the officer asked. "Yes, sir." I recounted the events while the ambulance departed, carrying Carrie on a stretcher and Jimmy with a bandage on his forehead. "Is my son all right?" I asked. "They checked for a head injury, but he seems okay," the officer responded before continuing. "We might need to bring you in for violating the protective order." "I had to help Jimmy," I asserted. "To hell with that order." He stepped away to check his radio, then returned. "Your ex-wife didn't wish to pursue the order violation, so you're clear for now, but that could change if Greg presses charges." I returned home hoping Jimmy was fine, and briefly wondered about Carrie too, but I dismissed that thought. The following day, I contacted my lawyer, who advised me to avoid communication with Carrie or Jimmy. Later, my mother confirmed they were well. Carrie had remained in the hospital, and Jimmy was with her parents. A few days later, my lawyer called to inform me Greg was denied bail, likely because Carrie was pregnant and Jimmy was injured. Surprisingly, Carrie's lawyer filed to revoke the protective order. A court date was scheduled, and I eagerly anticipated seeing Jimmy. In the subsequent weeks, Carrie called me multiple times, but I didn't answer to avoid jeopardizing the legal proceedings. On court day, I tidied myself, purchased a new suit, and shaved, aiming to make a positive impression. The judge was thorough, posing difficult questions about why I could see Jimmy now but not previously. After everything was clarified, she nullified the order. As we exited the courtroom, Carrie approached me. "Thank you for coming that evening. If you hadn't, I don't believe the police would have arrived in time. Greg would have harmed me." "I wouldn't allow my son to be hurt," I stated. She began to cry. "It's all my fault. He wouldn't have been injured if it weren't for me." My lawyer approached, congratulating me on regaining access to Jimmy. Walking out of the courthouse, I felt a sense of elation. Then I heard Jimmy shout, "Daddy!" I turned, and Jimmy was already leaping from Carrie's father's vehicle, rushing into my arms. I embraced him tightly until he requested to breathe. "Dan," Carrie's father approached. "Sorry I'm late, traffic was heavy," he offered. "No problem, I'm just relieved you brought him." "Where's Carrie?" I inquired. "She left abruptly after court." "I think she's gone," Dan added. "Why don't you take Jimmy for the day? Perhaps we can have dinner and catch up." I hesitated. "We don't have a visitation schedule yet, and she might." "She doesn't object," I heard from behind me. I turned to see Carrie, tears streaming down her face. "Spend some time together," she said softly. "He can even stay the night if you wish." Jimmy eagerly asked, "May I?" Carrie nodded, and I thanked her, feeling a pang of empathy for her, though I wasn't sure why. Despite everything, a part of me still cared. With Jimmy out of school for the summer, I took time off work to be with him. Carrie had returned to live with her parents after leaving Greg. One day, when she went into labor, I asked if Jimmy could stay with me longer. Her mother brought him over, and later I received a call from Dan. "Jim, she had a baby girl. You should come see her." "I don't care about her baby," I retorted. "Dan, just come." "It's important," he insisted. Reluctantly, I brought Jimmy to the hospital. He wanted to buy a stuffed animal for his new sibling, and I permitted it, despite my lingering resentment. When we arrived, Dan and Jane greeted us, and I learned Carrie had named the infant Allison after my mother. I walked down the hospital corridor and overheard Carrie singing a lullaby she used to sing to Jimmy. It struck me deeply. Entering the room, I was astonished to see the baby had vibrant red hair exactly like mine. Greg lacked red hair, but I possessed it. Carrie tearfully confessed, I think I made a mistake, Jim. I couldn't process it and walked out. Back in the waiting area, Jane stated, "She's yours, Jim. You can see that." "Prove it," I replied. Dan clarified, "That's why you're here. They've ordered a DNA test. You just need to provide a sample." I shook my head. "It won't alter anything." She broke my heart. 3 days later, Jimmy asked, "Can we visit Allison today?" I hesitated, but he added, "You don't have to come. Just drop me off at Grandpa's." I agreed. Then he inquired, "Allison has red hair. Does that mean she's your daughter?" "I'll know soon," I replied. "The test results should arrive today or Monday." Jimmy looked sad, then asked, "If she's your daughter, will you love her?" "I love you, and if she's mine, I'll love her too." He paused, then asked, "What about Mom? Will you love her?" I laughed, pouring more coffee. "Your mom will love Allison regardless." Without thinking, I said, "Your mom hurt me, Jimmy. She inflicted the deepest wound a wife can give a husband. She got pregnant and abandoned me for another. The affection I once held for her is gone." Jimmy was quiet before admitting, "That wasn't the first time Greg hurt Mom." I was shocked. "What do you mean?" "I've heard him hit her before, and they argued often," he said, his voice trembling. A tear traced his cheek. I embraced him tightly. "I'm so sorry, son. I didn't know." "Mom told him he wasn't half the man you are," Jimmy added. I released him, and we sat down. She didn't want to be married to a mechanic anymore. She wanted more, a larger house, luxurious vehicles. "That's foolish," Jimmy remarked, making me laugh. "Yes, buddy. Adults sometimes make silly choices." He smirked. "Don't forget your second win, Dad." I raised an eyebrow. "What?" "You'll figure it out," he said, running off to get ready. Later, we drove to Carrie's parents' house. Jane opened the door, holding baby Allison. "Hey, Jim, any news from the doctor yet?" "No," I replied, avoiding looking too closely at the baby. Jimmy asked eagerly, "Can I hold her, Grandma?" "Of course, but sit down first." "Babies are delicate," Jane said, smiling. Jimmy's excitement was clear. Jane invited me in for coffee, but I declined. I didn't want to be near Carrie or the infant until I received the DNA results. Just then, my phone rang. It was the lab. "Mr. Spellman, we've confirmed a positive DNA match." I ended the call before they finished. Sitting on the porch swing, I stared blankly. Carrie had been pregnant with my child when she left me for Greg. I felt like I couldn't breathe. After a while, Dan approached. "Are you all right?" "I'll never be all right," I responded. "How could she do this to me? I loved her." Dan sat beside me in silence. Eventually, he asked, "Was that the lab?" "Yes," I said, evading the truth. I wasn't prepared to admit I had a daughter. Dan placed a hand on my shoulder. "Jim, it's obvious. Did you truly require the test?" I snapped. "Yes. How could I trust that immoral woman you raised?" I regretted it instantly. "I'm sorry, Dan. I didn't mean it." Dan sighed. "I know you're hurting. It broke my heart when you two separated. I love you like a son." "I know, Dan. I'm just furious. She was expecting my baby when she left me for Greg. I don't know what to do." Dan hugged me. "Call your parents. They need to meet their granddaughter." "I will," I said, stepping back. "But I can't stay. I can't face Carrie after what she's done." Dan lightly slapped me. "That little girl has a father. Don't forget that." I nodded. "You're right. I'm just in shock." Dan softened. "Take your time, but you'll have to confront it eventually. Call your parents." I called my mom. "Hey, Mom, can you and Dad come over for lunch? Turns out Carrie's baby is your granddaughter." "What?" "We'll be right there." After the call, I asked Dan, "Can I hold her?" Dan smiled. "Of course. I'll get her and Jimmy." I sat back on the swing, feeling anxious and ready to depart. When Jane appeared, carrying Allison, she handed her to me. As soon as I held her, my heart melted. She was deeply asleep. Jimmy came running out, excited. "Isn't she beautiful, Daddy? She could be Batgirl for Halloween." I laughed. "She certainly could. You could be Batman, and she could be Batgirl or Poison Ivy." Allison awoke, crying, and Jane stepped forward. "Looks like she's hungry." Carrie appeared at the door. "I'll take her. She's breastfeeding, and I haven't pumped a bottle yet." I kissed Allison's forehead and handed her over. Just as I was about to leave, my parents arrived. My mom rushed over, tears in her eyes. "She's feeding," Jane said, hugging her. Come meet her. My dad chuckled. Your mom's been crying since we got off the phone with you, Jim. As they walked inside, my dad asked, Well, Jim, do you think everything will resolve? I honestly don't know, Dad. Back at home, I tried to focus on yard work, but I couldn't stop thinking about Allison. Knowing she was mine changed everything. I realized I needed to consult my lawyer about visitation for both children, not just Jimmy. I'd need to pay more child support, but I didn't object. After trimming the lawn, I went inside and began to contemplate re-child-proofing the house. I had saved the baby gates and crib from when Jimmy was small. It dawned on me that I might need a larger home. There wasn't enough space for Allison and Jimmy to share a room. As I tidied up, I was astonished at how disorganized the house had become since Jimmy's return, but cleaning felt therapeutic. I had just settled on the patio with a beverage when I heard my dad and Dan approaching. Want a drink? I asked, offering them bottles. Dad laughed. We're not here for a light chat, are we? Something like that, I muttered. Dan said, Jim, you've endured a great deal. You've gone from being separated from Jimmy to discovering you're a father of two. Most men wouldn't handle it as well as you have. My dad became serious. Jim, you're going to be this little girl's father, no matter what. I nodded, but I could tell he was leading up to something. Have you considered your relationship with Carrie? He asked. I laughed, loud and bitter. There is no relationship, Dad. She left me for Greg. You think I'm just going to take her back as if nothing happened? Are you insane? Jim, it's not that simple, Dan said, attempting to defend his daughter. Not a chance, Dan, I snapped. She thought Allison was Greg's, and that's why she went to him. Dan took a deep breath. She didn't know, Jim. If she had known. Are you serious? I yelled. How could she even allow there to be a question of whose child it was? She cheated on me, shattered my heart, and discarded everything. Just because Allison is mine doesn't alter that. We understand you're upset, my dad said gently. You don't comprehend anything, I shot back. She desired the lifestyle Greg offered, the expensive car, the trips. She made her decision. Now she can't just come crawling back because things didn't work out with him. I stormed into the house, locking the door behind me. I detested yelling at Dan and my dad, but I couldn't tolerate it anymore. The discussion was over. Time passed without any communication from Carrie or her parents. It was almost lunchtime, and I debated whether to call or simply pick up Jimmy. I didn't feel like going there, especially not to face Carrie. Then a text from Jane arrived. We're taking Jimmy to Red Robin for dinner. You can join us and take him home from there. I assumed Carrie and the baby wouldn't be present. Who brings a newborn to a restaurant? So I decided to go. Jimmy would help keep the atmosphere pleasant. When I arrived, they were enjoying a towering plate of onion rings, which made me smile. Jimmy always insisted on onion rings when we dined out as a family. Hey everyone, I greeted, sitting down. Dinner proceeded smoothly until after we ate. Dad, Jimmy said, we need a bigger house. I laughed. I agree. You and your sister won't be able to share a room when you visit. No, I mean so Mom and Allison can live with us again. I don't want to return to Greg's house. You're not going back there, I assured him. Greg's going to prison. Jimmy grinned. Thank goodness. I miss my old room. Dan frowned. Jimmy, your mom, Allison, and you will stay with us for now, and she'll find a new place soon. Jimmy wasn't satisfied. I want to stay with Dad. Why can't I? I tried to remain calm. It's complicated. The judge granted custody to your mom. I'm fortunate she's allowing you to stay with me these past few days. That's not fair, Jimmy cried. Why do I have to suffer? I glanced at Dan and Jane, but they avoided my gaze. Jimmy, it's not fair to me either, I said quietly. One day I had a family, and the next I lost it all. Your mom told me she was pregnant with Greg's baby, and it destroyed me. She made a mistake, Dad. She deserves a second chance. I shook my head. Jimmy, that song isn't about offering second chances. It's about persistence, and this situation is different. You're giving up, Jimmy yelled. You're not even trying. I took his hand. Son, I loved your mom, but she made her choice, and I can't take her back. Dan interjected. I think we should end the day. It's been long for everyone. I agreed, and we departed the restaurant. The ride home was silent, but I could tell Jimmy was still distressed. He yearned for our family to be reunited, and we had this conversation almost daily. His tones softened over time, but the sorrow never left his eyes. 10 days after Allison's birth, Carrie appeared at my door. "Hi, Jim. May I come in?" she asked. I called for Jimmy, who ran in and embraced her. "Hi, Mom. Where's Allison?" "She's with Grandma and Grandpa Spellman," she smiled. "Oh, good." He ran off, leaving us alone. "Are you here to take him home?" I asked, preparing for it. "No, Jim, I'm here to discuss things." I frowned but led her to the living room. "Can I get you something to drink?" I offered awkwardly. "No, thank you," she replied, sitting down. "I never got to talk to you before the divorce because of that protective order," I snapped. "The one Greg pushed for?" She looked down. "That was Greg's idea. He wanted retribution." "For what? For me confronting him after he stole my family?" I asked, anger rising. I know," she whispered. "And you didn't need to bring him to that barbecue," I added. "Perhaps not," she admitted. "But you didn't need to kick him either." "I only kicked him after he called me a derogatory name in front of Jimmy," I said. "You knew I'd be there, Carrie. You knew." Carrie looked away, guilt in her eyes. "You know Greg was in rough shape after that. You probably injured him more than you realize." I couldn't help but laugh heartily. The notion that I hurt Greg more than he hurt me by taking my wife and ruining my life was ludicrous. Once I calmed down, I asked, "Just get to the point, Carrie. What do you want?" She sighed. I never stopped loving you, Jim." I froze. "What?" "I was foolish. I made an error with Greg. I convinced myself I had to be with him because I believed the baby was his. I didn't even consider that Allison could be yours," she said, wiping a tear. "So you just abandoned me without even speaking to me?" I asked. She nodded. "I thought it was the only option. Greg persuaded me we'd be good together. I didn't realize how wrong I was until it was too late." I paced. "You discarded everything, Carrie. We had a family. We were content." "I know," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I messed up. You did more than mess up. You took my son, slapped a restraining order on me, and now you want another chance." She started crying again. "I'm sorry, Jim. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm pleading for another chance for Allison and Jimmy." I shook my head. "Carrie, we can't simply revert to how things were. You broke my heart. We can be friends, but I can't take you back." She nodded sadly. "I understand. I'm sorry for everything, Jim." She left with Jimmy that night. I sat by the window contemplating how my life had been completely altered. I should have been content with having Jimmy back, but things were more intricate now with Allison. I loved her the instant I saw her, but Carrie's request for a second chance threw everything into disarray. My lawyer had already prepared a visitation schedule and a revised child support agreement for both children, but I worried Carrie might not cooperate. Her plea for a second chance was the only leverage I possessed, and I had just dismissed it. Later, Jimmy returned home and asked if he could stay with me instead of going back to his grandparents. I explained that the custody arrangement placed him with his mother, and there was nothing I could do. "What about Allison?" he asked. "We'll resolve that soon. I want to see her as much as I can, just like I missed you." Jimmy then pivoted to dinner, asking for pizza. He even suggested including Carrie and Allison, but I shook my head. "I know what you're trying to do, Jimmy. It's not going to happen. Mom and I will never be together again." He shrugged and ran off. Later, I took him to Dan's house and requested to see Allison. Dan led me to the room where Carrie was rocking the baby. I whispered that I just wanted to see her for a moment. Carrie replied coldly, "Take a good look, because soon you won't see her again." "What?" I asked, alarmed. "It's simple," she said. "If you don't give me a second chance, I'll fight to ensure you never see Allison or Jimmy again." Just as I was about to shout, Dan placed a hand on my shoulder. "Don't utter anything you'll regret or she can use against you. I'm a witness here, and I won't let her do this. I'll find the best father's rights attorney, and we'll fight her all the way." Carrie stood up enraged. "If you keep interfering with my family, I'll cut you out of my life, and you'll never see your grandchildren again." Jane stormed in, furious. "I heard everything on the baby monitor, Carrie. You can't coerce Jim into taking you back. Don't initiate a conflict you've already lost," Dan suggested, moving the discussion to the kitchen, sensing I was about to explode. They left, granting me a moment alone with Allison. As I held her tiny hand, I nearly cried, unable to envision life without her. In the kitchen, I overheard Dan and Jane scolding Carrie. Dan reassured me. You're not alone, Jim. We'll fight this. I turned to Carrie. You made your decision. You divorced me. You have to live with that. Tearing up, she said, I made a mistake. We can rebuild our family if you forgive me. Carrie, the error was your affair that led to our divorce. She snapped. If you hadn't been working so much and neglecting me, I wouldn't have ended up with Greg. You barely spent time with me. I was stunned. Instead of talking to me, you ran to the man next door. You left me, believing the baby was his. She turned away, but I pressed on. You took my son, filed a restraining order because Greg instructed you to, and now you want to take my daughter too? We need to coexist for the children, but I can't take you back. Carrie broke down, and Jane comforted her. I waved goodbye, feeling utterly drained. I hoped Carrie would act responsibly, but I knew I needed to call my lawyer on Monday. I opened a cold drink and realized it was time to move forward. It was clear I wouldn't reconcile with Carrie, blackmail or not. I needed to re-enter the dating world. Having not dated in over a decade, I knew it would be a formidable challenge, but I resolved to pursue it. After showering and arranging for a ride, I surveyed my outdated wardrobe. I called my sister, who had always assisted me with clothing choices before Carrie entered my life. I put on some casual shorts and a collared shirt, ironically an outfit Carrie had purchased for me. Looking in the mirror, I realized I was in good physical condition, had a full head of hair, and my beard gave me a rugged appearance. With a steady job and savings, I felt like a desirable partner. I decided to visit a local sports bar, deeming it a safer option than a nightclub. At the bar, I encountered some old friends, Jack, Alan, and Chris. Holy cow, Jack exclaimed when he saw me, drawing attention. We embraced, and I felt a sense of camaraderie I had missed. Marriage and children had made it difficult to remain close with these single men, but now circumstances had shifted. What's happening, guys? I asked, signaling the server for a drink. Same old, Chris replied. Heard you got divorced, Jim. I nodded as the server brought my beverage. Yes. She tried to change things up and leave me, but now she wants me back. They all laughed, and Jack remarked, So you're out here seeking a replacement before she ensnares you again? Smart move. I chuckled. No, I'm not going back, but I figure it's time to get out there again. Alan smirked. Maddie's single now. Steve cheated, and she kicked him out last year. No way, I exclaimed, surprised. Maddie Ross was one of the popular girls in high school everyone admired. She's here, Jack said, gesturing toward the bar. She's playing trivia with Heather Scott. I spotted her, still stunning, dark hair framing her face perfectly. I considered approaching to say hello, but wasn't sure what to say. Jack must have sensed my hesitation. Let's go play trivia and grab a table near them, he suggested, and before I knew it, we were seated close by. I ordered a pitcher for their table. The server smirked and said, Good luck, making everyone laugh at my attempt to impress. I watched as the server delivered the drinks. Maddie smiled politely, while Heather whispered something to her. The guys started encouraging me to go talk to them. Nervously, I stood up and made my way over, sweating and feeling like a teenager again. Heather saved me from saying anything foolish. Jim Spellman, if you buy drinks, you should deliver them yourself, she teased. I smiled sheepishly. I wasn't sure you'd remember me. Of course we remember you, Heather said, laughing. I thought you were married. I raised my left hand. Divorced 6 months ago. Sorry to hear that, Heather said, while Maddie adjusted herself slightly. I noticed Heather's ring. You're married? Yep, 5 years now. I married Kevin Carlson, and we have twin girls. I've got a 10-year-old son and a newborn daughter, I replied. A newborn? Maddie asked, surprised. Yes, she was pregnant with my child when she left me for someone else. Maddie looked stunned while Heather said, That's quite a story. I smiled. Perhaps one for another time. Trivia starting, right? Maddie nodded. We never miss it. Want to join us? I hesitated. I came with some friends, but I'll check in on them. As I walked back to my table, Jack joked, Go get 'em, Tiger, making everyone laugh. I glanced back at Maddie and Heather, who appeared to be disagreeing. Taking a chance, I returned and sat down. Miss me? I asked, making them both smile. We're counting on you not to mess up, Maddie teased. I'll do my best, I replied. Hours later, we were 2 points ahead of another team. The host posed the final question. This 1,977 album features the hits She's Always a Woman and Just the Way You Are. I laughed while the women looked perplexed. I scrawled The Stranger on a piece of paper and handed it to the host, feeling confident. I winked at the rival team on my way back. That was the easiest question all night, I said, sipping my drink. Maybe for you, Maddie replied, shaking her head. I don't even know those songs. Heather laughed. At least I know they're Billy Joel songs. One of my favorite albums, actually. When the host announced we won, we all cheered, celebrating our grand prize, a $150 bar gift certificate. I let the women take it for their tab. Time for me to turn into a pumpkin, Maddie said, smiling. Babysitter's calling. I stood up and asked, May I walk you out? Both smiled and said, Please. As we walked, Maddie took my hand, and her eyes sparkled. I felt on top of the world. At the car, I kissed her hand and asked, Can I get your number? It would be my pleasure, she said, entering her number into my phone. We made plans for dinner on Saturday and trivia afterward. Heather laughed. I'm still coming. We all laughed, and I kissed Maddie on the cheek before saying goodnight. Monday morning, I called my lawyer to inform him of Carrie's threats. He reassured me. Don't worry, her lawyer faxed over the signed agreement. Joint custody is set. Congratulations. That evening, I was surprised to find Carrie sitting on the steps with Jimmy and Allison. What's this about? I asked, noticing the casserole dish. I brought dinner to help with Jimmy, she said. Tuna casserole, your favorite. I smiled cautiously. I've missed this. I can never prepare it the same. She sighed. I should have called to offer. Oh, wait, I guess you couldn't have called me. After dinner, Carrie sent Jimmy to his room and handed Allison to me. As I held her, I marveled at how much I'd missed. Carrie looked hesitant. I agreed to the visitation and child support, she said quietly. And what about, you'll never see your kids again, I asked, recalling her earlier threat. I overreacted, she admitted. I was desperate to get you back. I sighed. I wish you treated me this way before you left. Now it feels like you don't desire me, you require me. I can't trust you anymore. Tears welled in her eyes, but I continued. Let's at least remain friends for Jimmy's sake. He doesn't comprehend what occurred. You cheated on me, abandoned me, and obtained a restraining order because your lover told you to. I was never a danger to you or Jimmy. Jim, I don't apologize, Carrie. You didn't give me an opportunity to fix things. You just fell for him. Tears streamed down her face as she sat there in silence. Allison stirred briefly, and I gently rocked her back to sleep. Carrie, you had a choice. Him or me. You chose him. You'll never persuade me you weren't trying to alter your life. I can't believe that. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm sorry for everything. You'll never know how sorry I am. Can we at least try to make it work for the children? I leaned back, relieved Allison was finally asleep in my arms. We can be friends, Carrie, but I'm never taking you back. She nodded, her eyes still wet with tears. I know. After Carrie and the children left, I texted Maddie. Hi, just didn't want you to forget about me. Looking forward to Saturday. When she didn't reply immediately, I found myself pacing around the house, checking my phone every few seconds. I started worrying I texted her too soon. Dating again felt novel, and I wasn't sure of the protocol. Should I have waited longer? What if she didn't respond? Was it a bad sign? She hadn't introduced me to her children yet. My thoughts raced with questions, and we hadn't even had our first date. 10 long minutes later, my phone finally rang. A wave of relief washed over me when I saw it was Maddie. Hi, Maddie. Hi, handsome, she said teasingly. I don't really like texting. I prefer talking. Oh, sorry about that. What are you up to? She asked. Just giving my baby girl a bath, the youngest one. I knew you had an older child, but I didn't know about the little one. Yes, I've got two. Jimmy's 10, and Allison's a newborn. 3 kids won't scare you, right? She asked with a hint of concern. I laughed. No, I love children. You know I've got 2 of my own. Yes, our older ones attend school together. Really? That's fantastic. I don't recall seeing you at any events. I had a terrible schedule before, working second shift at the hospital. I just switched to first shift recently. Yes, I remember you mentioning you're a certified nursing assistant. Yes, that's part of what ruined my marriage, she sighed. Well, actually, my unfaithful ex-husband did, but he blamed it on my profession. Sorry to hear that. Sounds a bit like what my wife used to say, how I worked too much, was too tired, the usual. We both laughed for a moment. That's all nonsense, Maddie said. They cheat, and then they blame everything but themselves, she continued. They rationalize it and hurt everyone around them. You know how many opportunities I had to cheat but didn't? I couldn't do that to my partner. But cheaters, they don't care. Yes, I sighed. Carrie still tries to win me back. I've got her, my son, and even her parents turning on me. I think they finally recognize I'm the one suffering here. We are the sufferers, Jim. You haven't done therapy yet, have you? No, I admitted. Have you? Yes, it helped a lot. I'll give you my therapist's name. He helped me move past the why me phase. You're still in it. You're far ahead of me. At least you've realized you need to move on. For so long, I just remained home feeling trapped until I finally understood I had to start living again for the children and for myself. Well, she said, her tone softening. We make a good match. I laughed. That's for sure. I've been looking forward to Saturday ever since you kissed me on the cheek. Oh, shoot, Maddie said suddenly, her tone shifting. I have to go. Something's wrong with my 3-year-old. She's crying. No problem, talk soon, I said, smiling as I hung up. I sat down, feeling hopeful. Saturday couldn't arrive fast enough. When Saturday morning finally came, I called my sister. Hey, Jim, she answered cheerfully. Jenny, do you have time to go shopping with me this morning? I need to update my clothes. Oh my God, you have a date, don't you? She teased, laughing. I chuckled. Yes, I'm going out with Maddie Clark tonight. Maddie Ross? Wow, she's beautiful. I heard Steve really messed her up when he cheated. Called her a witch. That's not true, is it? Don't be silly, big brother, she said, still laughing. Of course I'm free all day. Let's do lunch at the mall and then shop. Sound good? Sounds great. Let's meet at Red Robin at noon, I suggested. As we sat down at the restaurant, Jenny eyed me curiously. So, Mom is thrilled to be a grandmother again. She's crazy about Allison. She visits her at Jane's all the time. Carrie's dropped her off at her mom's a few times too. And how are you handling all this? She asked, her tone softening. Better. Carrie's finally stopped fighting, and I'm really enjoying my time with the children. Jenny nodded as we ordered. So, you're moving on with Maddie? She's always been attractive but not arrogant like some of the other popular girls from high school. I think you two will be great together. I smiled. It's funny. I went out last week just to see how it felt to be on my own again. I didn't expect to meet someone that night. It's almost overwhelming. I really thought she'd blow me off. Jenny smirked. Just be yourself, Jim. If you try too hard or fake anything, she'll notice, and you'll ruin it. You're a good man. Just be that. Thanks, Jenny. I guess I'm nervous because I feel out of practice. What do people even do on dates now? She laughed. Jim, Maddie's our age, not in her 20s. Just do what you did with Carrie. Dinner, a movie, maybe a bar with dancing, something relaxed. She'll appreciate that. You're right, I agreed. Maybe I'm not as clueless as I thought. Jenny grinned. Oh, you're still clueless, but not entirely hopeless. We both laughed, and I shook my head as we continued chatting. That evening, I walked up Maddie's driveway. A boy was playing basketball and tossed the ball my way when he saw me. I had to drop the flowers I was holding to catch it, which made him laugh. I guess you're not fond of flowers? I joked. The boy chuckled. Are they damaged? Mom loves flowers. Roses are tough, I assured him. You're lucky. I'm Jim, by the way. Hi, I'm David. Don't tell Mom I made you drop the flowers. I won't, I said, smiling. Thanks for the heads up. David grinned and waved me inside. Come on, I'll tell her you're here. As I stepped inside, I saw the living room set up for a sleepover. Pillows and blankets everywhere, and DVDs by the television. David ran upstairs, and a 3-year-old peeked around the corner with a sippy cup. She froze when she saw me, screamed, and ran to the stairs. David came back down, scooping her up. Sorry, he said softly. She doesn't like strangers. You frightened her. I waved it off. No worries, my daughter's the same way. At that moment, Maddie came down the stairs, looking stunning in a long shirt and loose blouse. She took the little girl from David and smiled at me. This is David, she said. He goes to school with your son, Jimmy. Jimmy Spellman? Cool, David asked. He ran off, excited by the connection. Maddie touched her middle child's head. This is Samantha, but everyone calls her Sammy. Nice to meet you, Sammy, I said, smiling. And this little one, Maddie continued, nodding to the shy girl in her arms, is Bella. She'll need some time to warm up. She's not a fan of new people, as you can tell. I wiggled my fingers at Bella, but she buried her face in Maddie's chest, still cautious. My mom's running a bit late, Maddie explained. She's staying over tonight, so we'll have the evening to ourselves. I nodded, wondering if that meant I wouldn't be going home alone. No rush, we've got time. Want a beer while we wait, or perhaps a glass of wine? A beer sounds good, thanks, Maddie said, setting Bella down. The little girl quickly ran upstairs to join her siblings. You've got a lovely family, I said, handing her the beer. Thanks. They're a handful. But they're good kids, she replied, sitting on the couch. I glanced around the room and pulled a pillow closer. One thing I've learned about having kids is no matter how clean you try to keep the house, someone's always making a mess. Maddie laughed. You've got that right. So you and Steve got married, huh? That wasn't a surprise. You two were inseparable in high school. She chuckled. We weren't together out of love. We were part of a friend group, and everyone paired off. We just happened to last until graduation. Then when I got pregnant with David, we did what was considered the right thing and got married. It wasn't a joyful wedding, but we were never in love. It was destined to fail from the start. I nodded, sipping my beer. Before I could respond, Maddie checked her watch. We should probably head out soon. I don't want to be late for our reservation. I smiled. Don't worry, we've got plenty of time. She laughed softly. Jim, you don't need to be nervous. I've been looking forward to this all week. She gave me that bright smile again, the one that made her eyes sparkle and my heart race. Me too, I admitted honestly. I thought you might change your mind. Not a chance, she replied. Unless you've turned into an idiot since high school, I wasn't going to pass this up. I laughed, relieved. I'm glad you didn't. Just then, the front door opened, and Maddie's mom walked in. Sorry I'm late, she called out, smiling as she entered. No worries, Mom, Maddie replied, standing up. Mom, this is Jim Spellman. We went to school together. Her mom smiled warmly at me. Nice to meet you, Jim. Take care of my favorite daughter or I'll come find you. I chuckled. I thought it was the dad's job to threaten me. Her smile faltered. My John passed away last year. I'm really sorry to hear that, I said softly. She waved her hand dismissively. Don't worry about it. Just have a good time tonight, though not too good, she added with a wink, making us both laugh. Maddie kissed her kids goodbye, and we headed out. As we left, Maddie's mom chuckled from the doorway. When we arrived at the steakhouse, Maddie and I settled at a table by the window. It seemed ideal for a casual yet significant evening. But just as we got comfortable, something unexpected occurred. 2 tables over sat Dan and Jane, my former in-laws. The sight of them made my stomach drop. I wanted to flee, but Maddie noticed my unease and asked, What's wrong, Jim? I sighed and motioned for her to sit. My in-laws are here, 2 tables over, I said quietly. She glanced back, and as soon as she did, they spotted us. I braced myself for an awkward encounter, but I didn't need to worry. They both smiled and walked over to our table. Hey, Jim, Dan said, clapping me on the back. Good to see you out and about. Who's the looker? He asked, grinning as Jane held his hand. I smiled awkwardly. Hi, guys, this is Maddie, my date. Maddie, these are my in-laws, Dan and Jane. Jane smiled warmly at Maddie. Maddie, he's a keeper. Don't let him go like my foolish daughter did. Maddie looked startled, wide-eyed like a frightened deer. Okay. I don't really know what to say, she stammered, clearly taken aback. Dan laughed. Don't say anything, just enjoy your night. After they left, Maddie exhaled a breath she didn't realize she was holding. Well, that was something, she said, half laughing, half surprised. Yes, they're good people, I said, relaxing. When Carrie tried to frighten me into believing she'd take the children if I didn't take her back, they corrected her. Maddie raised an eyebrow. Do you truly think it was a bluff? Not entirely sure, I admitted. I think it crossed her mind and she said it out of desperation, but I'm not dwelling on it. She signed the custody papers, and that's what matters. Maddie squeezed my hand gently. Good. Don't forget what she put you through, but for the children's sake, get along. They'll sense tension if there's any, but never fully trust her. I nodded, appreciating her counsel. When the server came over, I decided to do something thoughtful. "Can you send a couple of desserts to that table?" I asked, gesturing toward Dan and Jane. The server smiled, noting it down. Maddie grinned at me, clearly impressed. We continued our dinner, exchanging stories and laughing, and afterward we headed to the bar for trivia night. When we walked in, Heather was already holding a table, and Jack and the guys were there too, giving me thumbs up when they saw Maddie. Laughing, I couldn't help but feel proud to be with her. Her laugh was contagious. "So, where did you two go for dinner?" Heather asked curiously. "To the Chop House," Maddie said. "You won't believe it, but his ex-in-laws were there and came over to our table." Heather's eyes widened. "Oh no, what did you do?" "Nothing," Maddie laughed. "They were actually really kind. They told me not to lose him like their daughter did." "Wow," Heather said, shaking her head. "First date of the year, Jim. You ready to defend our title?" "You bet," I said confidently, glancing at the elderly professors from last week. One of them nodded, and the other mimed a throat slash as if to say I was going down. I smirked, always enjoying a bit of friendly banter. "Well, we got lucky with that Billy Joel question last week," Maddie teased, nudging me. "No worries, ladies. We've got this." And we did. By the last question, we had a solid 10-point lead. The host tried to throw us off with a 12-point final question, but it was about a country singer Heather loved. She nailed it, securing another win for us. After trivia, we walked Heather to her car. Maddie and I wrapped in each other's arms. She felt so right in my embrace, and I didn't want to release her. It was a perfect evening, and I hoped there'd be more to come. "Good night, guys," Heather said, giving Maddie a hug and surprising me with one too. "Drive safe, sweetie," Maddie called after her as she pulled away. Maddie turned to me, her eyes sparkling again. "It's still early?" she said playfully. "You've got two options. Take me home and we can talk, or we can go to your place and have a little more fun." I wasn't about to mishandle this. I took her to my residence. Once inside, I offered her a drink. "Want some wine? I've got red, white, or beer." "White wine would be great," she said, settling on the couch and slipping off her shoes. I grabbed the bottle of Pinot Grigio I'd purchased earlier, hoping for this exact moment. "Here you go, Mads, my favorite wine for my favorite girl." "Mads?" she asked with a smirk. "What, too soon for a nickname?" She laughed, clearly charmed. "No, not too soon. My dad used to call me Mads." "Oh," I said, feeling a little awkward. "I didn't mean to." "Stop," she said, smiling warmly. "It's fine. My dad would have liked you." I smiled, sitting next to her and slipping my arm around her shoulders in what I hoped was a smooth move. "Nice try, Ace," she teased, laughing again. "Don't overdo it. I've waited a long time to find someone like you, and now that I have, I'm looking forward to dessert." We kissed, but nothing further happened that night. We waited until the third date to take things to the next level. After a romantic dinner at a fancy place she'd chosen, back at my house, I poured her another glass of wine, and we sat on the couch, conversing and laughing like old friends. Later that night, she leaned in close and whispered, "Jim, show me your bedroom." As we headed to the bedroom, memories of the past year flooded my mind. The affair, the divorce, losing and regaining my son, Allison's birth. Now I had Maddie too. I knew I wouldn't let her go. We were two damaged souls healing together. It was too soon to contemplate the long term, but I was certain I wouldn't repeat the same errors. Maddie and my children would come first from now on. Work would follow. As I drifted off to sleep, content and at peace, I could have sworn I heard her whisper, "I love you too."